welcome back. Brand new week of Brett Breaks Things. We are back after what I feel like is a successful first week we went through, and a lot went into it, and I thought it culminated in a pretty good first week. And although some of you are having a problem getting to me live, especially you guys on the West Coast, I know you got to get up early, 9 o'clock to catch me. I do appreciate those who have been able to come live. If you are coming live, you got to make sure you make your way over to the Brett Breaks Things YouTube for our live. The Randy stream is not going to continue forever. Maybe a week, maybe two, but it's going to be clipped. And I'm going to have you guys come over. My admins have done a great job of trying to usher people over. We got to get you guys over to my YouTube channel. It's just as easy to subscribe, get a notification, and join me there. And I wanted to say thank you to everybody who's contributed to the GoFundMe. We are moving our way towards our goal, trying to keep this thing open for at least another half a year or a year paid for, as far as the rent, the lights, all those things. And I'd love to see that continue. Your support is amazing. Go to the GoFundMe, Brett Breaks Things. Really easy to find. Please contribute. Now, I experienced something over the weekend that was not good. I experienced something that depressed me a little bit. It was the culmination of bad decisions, bad execution. I'm just disappointed. The Accountant 2 was terrible. It sucked. And I loved The Accountant. And The Accountant 2 sucked. I caught it with the wife this weekend. Bad, not a good movie. He's doing a Milton voice. It's a rompy, scampy romp with his brother with guns and a very, very confusing plot. Had a great Rotten Tomatoes score. Just be better, America. Just be better than that. Speaking of America, be better. I'm making jokes, but speaking of America being better, obviously, what am I going to start with? There's only one thing to start with, LA. It's the only thing to start with. And so we're going to do that. Now, I'm going to show you where this began. Early in the weekend, I'm going to show you where this began and what protests in this country should look like. This is what they should look like. Our streets! Our streets! Our streets! Okay, we're going to stop it right there. So that is what a peaceful protest looks like. And what are they protesting? You already know, but if you don't, they're specifically protesting the manner in which ICE is going about these raids. Okay? And when Trump rolled out these ICE raids originally, he was talking about targeting gang members, targeting violent criminals that are wandering our streets undocumented. We got to get them out. We got to get the gang members out. We got to get the violent criminals out of here. And that's what we're going to do. And they put this quota, they set this quota of X amount of immigrations, or at least detainees per day. Okay. And when they started it, we had the controversy over who was a gang member, who wasn't. With habeas corpus being suspended, we couldn't get these people in front of a judge to determine whether they are violent criminals who deserve to be extradited immediately to El Salvadorian prisons, okay? And there was a lot of question about the legality. Judges intervened, especially in the Abrigo Garcia case, and that has taken a better turn. We're not going to get too much into it, but Abrigo Garcia has been ordered to be brought back, and reportedly had been brought back. So I'll get you the details on that when I have them. But this is what was happening early, and then it has devolved, okay? These ICE raids have devolved quite a bit, and now they are resorting to dirty tricks. A lot of the people getting swept off the street, spirited off the street in the middle of their communities and from their homes. A lot of these people are undocumented, but somewhere in the process of their asylum being heard. Maybe they have a court date in the future, or they had one and they have another date. A lot of these people are somewhere in the process. And the process means nothing at all to Donald Trump and, Holman and Kristi Noem. They're throwing the process out the window. And so a lot of people who should not be just spirited away without having their rights read to them and being seen by a judge, they're just gone. They just disappear. Right off the street, we're talking about people who have been in this country contributing to the American dream for almost 10 years, some of them, maybe some even more, obviously, some less, but people who have dug in roots in these communities, had children, hold jobs, follow the law, arbitrarily being just swept off the street. So that's what they're protesting. All right. In the protests, they got a little more hot and heavy. Although it's important to note, in the George Floyd protests, a lot of cops were getting injured. Okay. And that was one of the things that precipitated such a heavy-handed response in those protests. We don't have any cops getting injured right now. We just have a lot of really angry people protesting in different ways, and it gets more intense as the protests go on. Now, I showed you that one so you can make your own decision about, is that acceptable? Is it acceptable for a protest to take the form that you see right there, shutting down the 101? I guess for me, it would depend on how much this issue actually means to you. Whether you are really angry that you can't get to work that morning and the 101 shut down, or whether you're like, this sucks and it is an impediment to my day, but I get it. Or are you somebody who's going to pull over and join the protest? I mean, we're talking the whole spectrum. You can decide where you land on that spectrum. And I just wanted to play this one story. Why are they so mad? Why are they so angry? I'm going to play you just one. I had a bunch of stories, okay? A bunch of examples of habeas corpus being suspended, of illegal, unconstitutional, just kidnappings on the street. But this is just one. And then we're going to move on.
This is why you guys are here. This is because, these things need to be documented. This is what they wanted. They wanted people to riot. They wanted the people to start fireworks. They wanted the people to start burning out. Why? Because this is the effect. So they can make us look bad. So they can make us seem that we're the ones causing this, that we started it. We didn't start this. As soon as we start recording, that's when they start pointing the tear gas guns, and they start shooting everything. Everything, everywhere. So we can't breathe. We can't see anything. She has her phone. One of the agents, I hear them go for the people with the phones. They went straight for my girlfriend. They ripped her out of my arms. They took her. They threw me. They threw me her phone.
Now, I played that particular guy with that sound for a reason, because he nailed it. It's all about optics. It's all about optics and furthering an agenda, which is militarizing this situation, making it escalate to a point where Trump can further his agenda, his culture war, and his grab for power. And he's talking about his girlfriend, because she was recording, was picked up off the street, and now he doesn't know where she is. She's gone. She's gone. And what was the effect that this type of reaction from the police, what was the effect it was supposed to have? Well, you've got Trump. Now, this is amazing, because Trump gave this post, he put this Truth Social post I'm about to show you up before the National Guard had arrived. Okay? This is before the National Guard arrived. Great job by the National Guard in Los Angeles after 2 days of violence, clashes, and unrest. We have an incompetent Governor Newsom and Mayor Bass, who were, as usual, unable to handle the task. These radical left protesters, by instigators and often paid troublemakers, I find that interesting, will not be tolerated. Also, from now on, masks will not be allowed to be worn at protests. What do these people have to hide? And he goes on. That's why the optics needed to be bad for Trump, because he wanted to get the National Guard out there. He wanted to demonize the protesters and make it seem acceptable and reasonable to respond to the protests with more force, more show of power. Okay? More show of power. So the National Guard did arrive. Now, he lied. Great job, National Guard. They hadn't been there yet. I found that hilarious. even when he's not off the cuff, like talking live stream of consciousness, when he's deciding what buttons to push, he still can't get it together. He still can't help but lie and be wrong. So the National Guard finally arrived.
And overnight, President Trump thanked the National Guard for a job well done, but we've actually seen them just arrive here this morning, getting set up with riot gear, all of these armored vehicles. So far, a lot of the response has been local law enforcement with some federal officers, but they are clearly gearing up for what could be another intense day of clashes.
And what was Trump doing during these intense clashes? What was Trump doing while the National Guard was gearing up to do his bidding? I mean, this is a crisis, right? You would think he's meeting with heads of the military, on the phone with governors, right? On the phone maybe with Mayor Bass, you know, in a war room, getting critical information as the situation unfolds. That's what he's doing, right? Wrong. Violence is this dude's brand. All right? Violence in LA. And what's he going to do while violence is unfolding in LA? He's going to go check out some violence in person. Not in the war room, not conferring with heads of military, you know, speaking with, that was UFC in New Jersey, by the way, thank you. And so, no, he wasn't meeting with the higher-ups in the National Guard, ensuring the protocol, what they can do, what they can't they do, keeping, you know, an observant eye over the situation as it unfolds. No, he's going checking out more violence, violence on violence on violence. That's his brand. That's his brand, and I'm going to prove that later on in some video. So the National Guard showed up. And it really escalated from there quite a bit. Joy Vance, MSNBC, she reported on it.
Right now, Donald Trump has used his Title 10 authority to put the National Guard onto the streets in Los Angeles. That means that they can't engage in any kind of domestic law enforcement. They are simply there to protect federal personnel and federal property. But this idea that we would bring Marines onto the streets along with them is concerning.
Okay, Title 10. It culminated in Title 10 being executed, invoked. And I can't wait to quickly break down for you what that is, what Title 10 is if you don't know. Maybe there's some of you who are tuning in and you've heard that term in the context of what's unfolding here, but you don't really know what Title 10 is. We went ahead and we gathered the necessary data to explain to you exactly the difference between Title 10 and an insurrection act, which this is not. How it's used, why it's used, and has it been used previously? Yes. And I'm going to get into those examples. But like that young man said, all the violence, all the contention, the anti-protest sentiment amongst law enforcement, it was to an end. And this was that end, Title 10.
It's time for a quick break, then we break some more. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. Breaking news, breaking rules, breaking through. Back to Brett Breaks Things.
Outside the Metropolitan Detention Center. I was talking about the spray painting. You can see some of this. This entire block appears to be tagged. But take a look at these officers. These are soldiers, rather. You can see there's about maybe 25 of them standing here in quite a display of a show of force. And each of these soldiers, if Mike, you can zoom in a little bit, they're each carrying a long stick and a rifle. Each one of them is carrying a rifle. It appears to be a lethal rifle. We don't know what the status of those weapons are, but they certainly are here with their uniforms on and an incredible show of force. Armored vehicles also positioned outside of the Metropolitan Detention Center.
Okay, that's an incredible show of force. Certainly an incredible show of force, in my opinion. And we will show you some of the results of that force being spread out amongst the streets of LA to quell these protests, this civil unrest. So Title 10, that is what Trump was angling for. Title 10. Title 10 concerns the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, Space Force, and in terms of federalization, the National Guard in some instances like this. Okay, that's who can be controlled under Title 10. And it's important to know that because of the Posse Comitatus Act, unless it's an insurrection, unless the Insurrection Act is invoked as well, they cannot engage in domestic law enforcement. No arresting people, no shooting at people. That is the restrictions that they operate under, okay? The Posse Comitatus Act. That is what we're dealing with right now. Right now, he has just invoked Title 10, okay? Not the Insurrection Act. Not yet. Not yet. And the reasons he's citing for doing this are widespread civil unrest, okay, breakdown in state control, and dangers to federal personnel and property. I submit that none of this is true. Not one of these things can reasonably be cited for a reason to unleash 2,000 National Guard on the streets of LA. Widespread civil unrest, I argue that this isn't exactly civil unrest, and it's not that widespread. These protests and the presence of the federal troops have been fairly localized. People are going about their lives in LA right now, for the most part. Widespread civil unrest, I disagree with that. Breakdowns in state control, you're going to hear from Gavin Newsom. He didn't want them. He didn't request them. Mayor Bass didn't want them. Didn't think they were necessary. So according to the people who are in charge of deciding whether there has been a breakdown in state control, you know, the governor and the mayor of the city, they both agree they did not have a breakdown yet, and their police force was more than capable of handling what was happening in the streets of LA. I disagree with your second reason cited, and dangers to federal personnel and property. I disagree that you had enough danger to personnel and property to warrant 2,000 troops. We do not see buildings being rioted en masse. There are not, personal property being broken into, widespread theft and looting. That isn't happening. And as far as personnel go, none of these ICE agents have been put in any type of real danger. There are no major injuries at all reported on the law enforcement, the ICE agents, or the National Guard. None of them have been attacked in any meaningful way to warrant this. None of them. So the three reasons you cite President Trump, I contend all three are hollow. Not one of them holds water. Title 10 it's typically invoked under insurrection, rebellion, obstruction of federal law, and we'll get to that in a second. Obstruction for federal law. That one has really done a 180 because it used to be, especially during the civil rights movement, it was used to, forcefully hold up federal law in terms of civil rights advancements, like people integrating into schools, allowing for peaceful protests by minority groups. The government would send in troops to make sure nobody harmed the protesters. Okay, to make sure nobody stopped somebody from going to school once the federal law demanded they had the right to do so. That's when this used to be used. So Gavin Newsom, he's against this being enacted at all. It has been enacted before. Okay, it has been enacted before, most notably during the Civil War, the World War I, and World War II. We're talking about the federalization of the National Guard. In the Civil War, 700,000 militia were federalized, activated at the federal level to fight. It happened again during World War I, 400,000 National Guardsmen activated and sent overseas. And in World War II, 300,000 Guardsmen activated and sent overseas for the most part. Do you see the difference here? Are you seeing a pattern starting to form on how this should be used versus how it's being used right now? Little Rock, Arkansas, that was a desegregation issue. People were attacking minority students trying to go to school under the law. The guard came out, ensured their safety. University of Mississippi, same thing. The Selma, Montgomery, there's a ton of examples, especially during the Civil War era, of this being enacted to further a cause that was worthy, that was just, using National Guardsmen to ensure a just outcome. That's how it used to be used. Later on, the Detroit riots. 5,000 troops approximately sent out to Detroit to quell the Detroit riots. 43 killed, over 1,000 injured. Okay, that's violence. That's civil unrest. That is a need for a stepped up level of enforcement. Los Angeles riots, the Mariel boat lift. We brought out troops to ensure that the Mariel boat lift went smoothly. These were examples of when Title X was used justly. Here's how Title X is being used now.
Right when the DHS forces, and now we're seeing them firing pepper balls.
Is it pepper balls? That's what I thought. When I saw those yellow colored weapons that almost looked like what you would take to a paintball range, right? They had the kind of receptacle on top. I thought that might be either rubber bullets or pepper balls.
Yeah, and I mean, what you're seeing is you're seeing the less than lethal weapons being used to fire what is OC spray, essentially, into the crowd to get them back.
But why do they need that? I'm sorry, they had moved them back, the vehicles are in. What is the need to fire this?
Not clear from what I saw.
Not clear. The need to fire dangerous, high projectile tear gas canisters that in and of themselves could cause you serious bodily damage. But of course, the tear gas on protesters. The tear gas. It's the optics. That young man who had his girlfriend stolen from him nailed it. It doesn't take a political professor or somebody, who studies human behavior in terms of politics to understand the optics on this, to understand why they're doing it. I mean, these images continue. We cut out so much, but we chose things to show you. We want you to understand how Title X is being used now.
And again, you're looking live right now on one of the freeways in Los Angeles as police work to disperse protesters. And you see there on the front lines, there are clashes between police and the protesters. I just want to keep watching this for 1 second because we are seeing an escalation here. We're seeing the canisters of gas that are being floated around. Again, this is on a freeway in Los Angeles after they've been told to disperse. You see police and protesters getting very physical there. And police clearly trying to move these protesters off of the freeway.
Getting physical. Yeah, they got physical. I mean, that is incredible video. That is incredible video. A gas canister getting kicked back and forth like a soccer ball. And then that young man who, look, I can't condone what he's doing. Don't get me wrong. And by the way, that was all over the weekend. All these images I'm showing you are from over the weekend. I'm not going to sit here and condone kicking gas canisters back at ICE agents. I understand it. I won't personally condone it. My protest, the way I think it should go down is that first video I showed you. They have to be peaceful. If they are not peaceful, that is when people get spirited away. Unmarked vehicles, unmarked armies of guys coming out of vehicles, just grabbing people and taking them away to never be seen again. And don't forget, when you start in with the violence, you have incidents like with the AutoZone in Wisconsin, where a guy with a hoodie crashes in a window to spark violence and to incite the police to do more. And to say, look what the rioters are doing. Turns out he was a Proud Boy. He might have been a 1%er. I don't want to dig my heels on which particular splinter group he belonged to, but he was an agent of chaos. You think they're not going to be deployed here? Trump told you. Every time Trump levels an accusation on somebody, that means he's doing it. That's what gave him the idea. Talking about paid inciters of violence, people who went out to the protest to incite violence that were paid, that were there to incite specifically. That's because he's doing it, or people with his interests. And I'm not just guessing. Look into that AutoZone in Kenosha. Look into that gentleman that was part of Trump's agenda, trying to further and escalate the violence in that area by crashing in the window of an AutoZone. If Trump says it, that's because he's doing it. Never forget that. They would love nothing more than for this to turn much more violent. Because the more violent this gets, the more acts he gets to invoke, like the Insurrection Act. If you make it look like an insurrection, even a little bit, he will call it that. And he will come down with the hammer of the Marines. His words.
Breaking politics, breaking narratives, breaking news. But first, we need a coffee break.
Save money.
Brett breaks things because someone has to.
Outside there, and certainly no weapons that you've seen.
Careful,
I see them going forward. Stay safe, Kyung.
Watch out, watch out, watch out. Okay. So they're pushing everybody into the street.
We're watching.
I don't know why.
We're watching live pictures here. This is from Los Angeles, outside a Metropolitan Detention Center, where over the course of the last 2 hours, we've seen the size of the federal forces there grow, not just National Guard troops, and that's our Kyung Lao right in the middle of it. I want to make sure she stays safe and her photojournalist. We've watched their number grow, that is of...
Yeah, so to me, that's the classic powder keg situation, right? Like, it is amazing that we were not interrupted during our preparation for this show with some tragic news from this situation. I'm waiting for it, and I'm waiting for it. God, I hope it never comes. But I'm waiting for an LA police officer, a riot squad officer has been killed, or a National Guardsman was shot at, resulting in the death of X amount of protesters, right? Like, it's coming. I feel like it's almost inevitable. You make the decision. Does this look like nothing big right now? No big deal right now to you? Or are you like me and you feel like this is what it looks like in countries teetering on authoritarianism? This is what it looks like before countries fall to fascism. And I haven't been throwing the word fascism around a lot. Not in my dry runs, not in my first week live. I feel like it does not serve us to tack fascism on every single injustice we see across the board, a blanket accusation of fascism. I don't think that serves purposes. What I do think is that if you judiciously use the word fascism, when you do apply it, it will have a little more weight. And I'm not saying right now we are under the thumb of a fascist government. I'm saying Trump has fascist aspirations. And if you want to argue with me, I will present to you Exhibit A.
Lauren, what are you seeing and hearing? It's looking like things are getting chaotic.
A large crowd of law enforcement come out.
We have, oh my God, we have tear gas, we have fireworks going off, tear gas is in the air, people are dispersing. I can't see anything.
That's what fascism looks like, smells like, tastes like. Okay? Things have developed. People have gotten hurt. Make no mistake. Thank God there has not been an all-out physical attack on these ICE agents, these cops, and these National Guard. And I really hope there's not a bunch of you listening to me right now thinking, why, Brett? They deserve it. That's not, I can't take that into consideration. Avoiding the invoking of the Insurrection Act should be our number one priority right now. And that starts with not attacking these people violently. Okay? So I am here saying, thank God ICE agents haven't been attacked. I don't want anybody attacked. Thank God LA cops haven't been attacked. Thank God nobody's been stupid enough to physically assault the National Guard. Thank God. But people are getting hurt. And you know what else smells like fascism? Attacks on the press, right? Carolyn Leavitt kicking the free press out of the press room, only taking questions from sympathetic outlets, allies, Fox News, Newsmax. And then there's other forms of attack on the press. I'm going to show you this video, and then I'm going to help you see what I saw. Okay?
Moving in on horseback, firing rubber bullets at protesters, moving them on through the heart of LA. You just shut the fuck up. You okay? I'm good.
That was exactly what it looks like it was. Now, thank God those were rubber bullets. Thank God. That was an Australian reporter. Okay? That can't get complicated enough. Yeah, seriously, welcome to America, Australia. Everything you fear about coming here, and you know, it's funny, I went to school with an Australian, decent dude, Nick. What's up, Nick, if you found me? And when I had a lot of lab hours to get my degree, and one of the things we talked about in our many, many hours shooting things together and getting our lab hours was his perception, Australians' perception of America, and their number one perception of us is we are psychopath killers. Why all the guns? Here's your fears realized, Australia. But I want to show you what I saw when I watched that video, okay? I want you to take a look at these two shots. This is before she was shot, okay? She was reporting. The camera pans over to that line of riot respondents. Okay, that looks like the LA riot squad to me. Okay, that's not confirmed, but I believe that's who it looks like to me. Take a look. All right. As the camera pans over, you've got the one on the far left looking right at her. By the time the camera pans over, right? Take a look at that. He's looking right at her. Here is just before he pulls the trigger. Whoops, there you go. In this shot, he has his gun raised, pointing directly at the press. She has her back to him, holding a microphone, reporting on the situation. He noticed her, and he took his shot. That's what fascism looks like, smells like, tastes like. Taking shots at a reporter because you know she most likely will survive it. Most likely. Because you absolutely can be killed from a rubber bullet. Make absolutely no mistake about that. And people have been. That wasn't his concern. Now I want you to watch it again now that you've seen what I saw. Whoops. Sorry about that.
Moving in on horseback, firing rubber bullets at protesters, moving them on through the heart of LA.
Boom.
You just shut the fuck up. You okay? I'm good.
MAGA, you good with that? Conservative Republicans who do all types of mental gymnastics to defend every single action by this administration? Are you good with that? I know a lot of you love the violence and you can't get enough of these ICE raids, right? But are you good with that? Is that okay with you? It's not okay with me. There was some more violence, and I mean violence. I'm going to show you a couple more clips of real violence as a result of what's happening here.
Destroyed, and they are continuing to push protesters down. I'm not sure if that's a bag rolling or if that's, or if it's...
That's a person.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it's actually a person that was just kind of continuing to roll down, and that officer on horseback is forcefully suggesting that person get up and continue moving down the street.
Now, I don't want to be disingenuous. I didn't have the beginning of that clip. Maybe he, was guilty of doing some type of just egregious, violent, threatening act against those those police on horseback. Maybe. I didn't get the beginning of that clip. Maybe that was cut in a very specific way and made available to me as that being its entirety for a very specific reason. I have to acknowledge that. I don't know what that young man did. But I know that doesn't look American to me. I mean, or maybe it looks the most American. Yeah, no kidding. The horseback violence continued as well.
Peaceful protests and enforce the law when criminal acts occur. The LAPD remains focused on its core mission to protect lives, safeguard constitutional rights, and serve every neighborhood in Los Angeles with integrity. Let me open it up now for any questions you might have or any points that we can clarify.
Okay, I'm going to stop it and play it back again, right around where it was. Let's be clear about what we saw here. Again, we didn't get why he ended up on the ground in the middle of those horses. He may have thrown a Molotov cocktail. He may have thrown a rock. He may have spit at one of those officers, and we'll get to that in a little bit. According to Trump, they spit, we hit. You'll hear that in a little bit. But we don't know. We don't know why. But I do know this. At the beginning of this video, whatever he did, he came to justice as there he is laying in the street. So where this video begins, couldn't an officer have come up and arrested him? That should have been the end of the video. All right? He did something, and he ended up on the ground, facing the dirt, ready to be arrested for whatever it was he did. This should have been the end of the video. It was really just the beginning of it.
Peaceful protest now for any questions you might have or any points that we can clarify.
No, please, just arrest me. Why are you hitting me? Just arrest me then. Yank down once again. Okay.
Yeah, if I don't know what basis they used to make that decision, but if that was...
What you hear over that video is a press conference. There was a press conference coming out of LA at that time, and it was a split screen between whoever that was talking and that violence unfolding on the screen. So he's on the ground, curled up in the fetal position, ready and willing to be arrested, wondering why the beating is continuing. And then a fireworks goes off near the horses. He gets trampled just a little bit, just a light trampling. Then a little more stick action. Then they apprehend him. To me, it's what fascism smells like, tastes like. I'm asking you, to you, is this what it looks like? Or are you of the opinion, completely justified, every single bit of it? Completely justified. And are you of the opinion that the president should right now invoke the Insurrection Act and deploy the military, Marines, to go handle business? Is that how you feel about this? Then you might be real excited about the way this is going.
We'll be back to break it all down. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things.
Security.
You're back with Brett Breaks Things, because silence isn't an option.
Typically, the federal government sends in the National Guard only at the governor's request. But Trump is bypassing Newsom, marking the first time a president has bypassed a state governor since the civil rights movement. Trump citing a specific provision of the U.S. Code on Armed Services that allows for the federal government to deploy the National Guard if there is a rebellion or danger of a rebellion against the authority of the government of the United States.
The terminology on that is very important. A possible rebellion against the government or the execution of government business, basically. That's the important part. No, Clearly, these protesters are not trying to overthrow the government, obviously. But are they impeding government action? That's the question. That's what they have to avoid doing, impeding government action. That's what I contend has not been done yet. It has not been impeded yet. And yet here we are, Title 10. Another piece of wording in that is important is that this has not been requested by Gavin Newsom. Now, one of the reasons you can cite using Title 10 is it has been requested by the governor, right? Something's going on in a state, and the governor gets out in front of it and says, I request the federalization of the National Guard to handle this situation. That's one reason they can do it. But it's very important to note that it is not a prerequisite to do it. They do not need a request from the governor. They don't need the permission of the governor. Newsom had a little something to say about that.
The Emergency Operations Center. I wonder how you would characterize the events that are unfolding in Los Angeles right now. Is it an emergency? Is it Fox News is calling it the LA riots? Is it a peaceful protest? What's happening? What are you seeing?
Well, I mean, look, Donald Trump has created the conditions you see on your TV tonight. He's exacerbated the conditions. He's, lit the proverbial match. He's putting fuel on this fire ever since he announced he was taking over the National Guard. An illegal act, an immoral act, an unconstitutional act, and we're going to test that theory with a lawsuit tomorrow.
Well, I was going to ask you that. Sorry to interrupt you, but Governor, so that's news. If you're going to sue the administration, tell me a little bit about it. Give us a preview of this lawsuit.
Well, under his executive order, it specifically notes, and under what the DOD did, is they had to coordinate with the governor of the state. They never coordinate with the governor of the state.
Gavin, I love you, bub. I think you're a good governor. Even Democrats in California might disagree with me. I like Gavin Newsom. For a while, I was one of those people that were pushing the idea that maybe Gavin Newsom was an appropriate, timely, and possibly a successful choice for nominee for president from the Democratic side. I have been since pushed off that. I think, and I've been convinced that there may be better candidates the next time around, and I'm going to do shows on that. We're not going to spend time, but I like Gavin is the point. But I got news for you, Gavin. I think this lawsuit of yours will be a gigantic nothing burger. It will be propaganda. It will end up being spin. It will end up being a lot of noise with not a lot of delivery, because they absolutely do not have to coordinate with you. It's in the law. They don't need your request. They don't need your permission, and they do not need your coordination. He's going to go forward with the lawsuit. Fine. Go ahead. Push your agenda. Go forward with the lawsuit. Your butt hurt. I get it. They just did this. It's your state. It's Mayor Bass's city. And they just moved on in. I understand why you're upset. And he is upset.
Home and the Borders Czar said to me yesterday he did not rule out literally arresting you, nor Mayor Bass, if you interfere in his work. He said you hadn't yet.
He's a tough guy. Why doesn't he do that? He knows where to find me. But you know what? Let your hands off 4-year-old girls that are trying to get educated. Let your hands off these poor people. They're just trying to live their lives, man. Trying to live their lives, paying their taxes. Been here 10 years. The fear, the horror. The hell is this guy? Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy. You know, I don't give a damn. But I care about my community. I care about this community. The hell are they doing? These guys need to grow up. They need to stop. And we need to push back. And I'm sorry to be so clear, but that kind of bloviating is exhausting. So, Tom, arrest me. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go, Tom Holman. Put him up. Man, put him up. Put him up. It's fun. Get tough with him, Gavin. Get tough. They're not going to arrest Gavin Newsom. They're not going to arrest Karen Bass. And the lawsuit's going to go forward, and I don't think it's going to be successful. This administration has been more savvy this time around when it comes to getting their agenda through without the impediment of the courts. You saw it with the travel ban. They made a whole lot of mistakes in 2017. It had to go 3 different iterations before finally passing the Supreme Court 5-4. This travel ban, they eliminated all those steps. They made sure it was airtight. There was no chaos at the airports this time. They were not accused of being Muslim haters this time because they included countries like Haiti and Chile, Haiti and Venezuela. We're not racists. Everybody's banned. Everybody's free to be banned. They're airtight this time, at least tighter. And this is one of the areas where clearly this has been thought out. Karen Bass had some words on it. Okay, so Newsom, the governor, he wants to fight Tom Holman. Okay, that's fun. Karen Bass, the mayor, she had an opinion on it.
I absolutely agree with the governor in asking that the troops be withdrawn. I don't think that is a way to bring peace in Los Angeles. I think that our law enforcement officers can handle this situation, but I just have to repeat again, it's a feeling here of intentional chaos in a situation that had not broken out to violence, short of a few people, and there's nothing unusual about that, and our police departments can manage that, but it is as though troops were rolled out in a provocative manner, and I do not see how that is helpful to Los Angeles right now.
It's not supposed to be helpful to Los Angeles right now, Karen. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. They are not there to help you, Karen Bass. They're there to send a message to these protesters and you blue states who's in charge and the lengths we're willing to go to further our culture war agenda. Now, Trump, he had a lot to say about this after it all unfolded with the National Guard. I'm going to get to these as quickly as I can.
CNN's Dana Bass suggesting that this wasn't a real riot in Los Angeles.
Is that what she said? I think it was a riot. I think it was very bad. It was covered really as a riot.
Okay, so Karen Bass is saying this isn't a riot. It's not even that big. People aren't getting hurt and injured. Trump says, nope, it's a riot. Because I know. I know the most about riots. He knows the most about everything. So he knows the most about riots. He knows what's a riot and what's not. You don't know what you're talking about, Karen Bass. That's in response to her interview. He continues, I mentioned the spitting.
When they spit at people, they spit. That's the new thing. They spit and words. You know what they throw at them, right? And when that happens, I have a little statement. They say, they spit, we hit.
Okay, that one's hard to hear. I'm going to clip it there. They spit, we hit. Right on brand, Donnie. Right on brand. You got a clever little rhyme. It's based in violence. It's based in causing somebody else pain and suffering. Right on brand. He continues.
Are you prepared to invoke the Insurrection Act?
Depends on whether or not there's an insurrection.
Do you think there is, sir?
No, but you have violent people, and we're not going to let them get away with it.
Oh, really? Really, Don? You got violent people. What happened to both sides? You remember Charlottesville? I don't know if any of you remember Charlottesville. Oh, you do. Oh, it's still fresh on your mind. The injustice of it all and his sound, what he said after that on August 12th, 2017, the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Heather Heyer was murdered, along with another 35 people injured in that attack. That was white supremacists coming to protest the taking down of a Confederate statue. So when the white supremacists show up to protest and actually cause violence, it's fine people on both sides. But when your ICE agents unconstitutionally spirit thousands of undocumented immigrants off the streets, waving habeas corpus, flying them off to foreign countries, when people come out to protest that, what, they're not fine people either? So the white supremacist cause, that made them fine people. But these people protesting ICE tactics, they're not fine people. And they haven't killed anybody. Got it, Donnie. Just want to get that clear real quick. Just want to make that distinction. Okay. Okay, you can't hear the sound. I tried to do what I could with the sound, but he's saying, you know, this country's been torn apart by the Biden administration, and we can't let them do these things. And yeah, he may invoke the Insurrection Act. What's the difference between the Insurrection Act and Title 10? The main difference? Posse comitatus. Under the Insurrection Act, they can do whatever they have to do to quell the rebellion. And at the end of that clip, which you couldn't hear, he was asked, what about the Marines? Would you be willing to deploy the Marines? He said, hey, they'll be ready. The Marines will be ready. The Marines. Mike Johnson also talked about that.
Secretary Hegseth said that active duty Marines there at Camp Pendleton, there by San Diego, are on high alert and could be mobilized. Could we really see active duty Marines on the streets of Los Angeles?
You know, one of our core principles is maintaining peace through strength. We do that on foreign affairs and domestic affairs as well. I don't think that's heavy-handed. I think that's an important signal.
You don't think sending Marines into the streets of an American city is heavy-handed?
We have to be prepared to do what is necessary, and I think the notice that might happen might have the deterrent effect.
You have to be prepared to do what's necessary to maintain peace. Is that right? That's what you're contending? Because I can remember an event that really could have used a heavy-handed approach. That is a rebellion. That is an insurrection. That is a situation that demands the National Guard. That is a situation where law enforcement was killed and hurt. That was at our nation's capital, not LA. Not in the face of illegal, unconstitutional ICE raids. That was in the face of those people didn't like that their cult leader lost an election. Where was the National Guard then?
They'll try to repair the narrative, but Brett Breaks Things will be back tomorrow to break it all down.